Good morning, everybody. I can see that people are joining the chat room, so I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes while people join us. Welcome to today's webinar. This is a webinar about the Cambridge C1 Advanced exam to give you some tips to go through the different papers and answer your questions as well about the exam. So if you are feeling communicative, you can type in a little message into the chat box to say hello. Thanks, Ismail. Good morning. And we'll just wait a couple more minutes for people to join us. That's great. Thanks, Laura, Tony, Angel. Brilliant. I can see people chatting away there. That's great to see. Fantastic. So tell us also where you're joining us from this morning. I'd be interested to know, are you in Barcelona? Are you in Madrid? Are you in Baleares? We might even have some people from other parts of Spain or from other parts of Europe, other parts of the world even. So let us know in the chat box where you're joining us from this morning. Valencia, hi Sabina. Mireia is in Barcelona, Queralt, Tarragona, Madrid. Lovely, fantastic, lovely range of places there. Excellent. Right, so I'm going to start with a little poll as well. I would like to know how you heard about this webinar. So could you answer the little poll that's come up in your chat box? Okay, fantastic. I can see that about half of you heard from your teacher. That's great. Others from the language school, others by email. Fantastic. That's great. Thank you very much. I'll introduce myself. My name is Michael Terry. I'm the Centre Examinations Manager for Exams Catalunya, Exams Madrid and Exams Baleares. And this webinar today is presented by us. We form one company which is called Assessment and Certification Services, but you will know us more likely as Exams Catalunya, Exams Madrid and Exams Baleares. So it's great to welcome all of you to the webinar today. I'm just going to say a few words before I introduce Sarah, basically to let you know that from the beginning of phase 2 of the easing of the lockdown restrictions, we will be starting our exam sessions again. And this means for us that even from next Saturday, which is the 6th of June, in a couple of places, Girona and Tarragona, we'll be starting some sessions. And if the phase 2 begins when it is scheduled to begin, we'll be commencing our sessions in Barcelona, Madrid, and pretty much everywhere else from the 8th of June. In order to help you with the fact that, we've had a couple of months without sessions and everybody has had to reorganize their lives somewhat, we have made the registration periods for our exams a little bit longer, so you have a little bit more time to sign up for the exams. More or less, you have 3 weeks before a paper-based date and 2 weeks before a computer-based date to sign up for the exam. And those sign-up dates are on our website along with all of the dates that we are offering. We will be following, of course, guidelines for the sessions that we're running in order to ensure the safety of all of our candidates and staff. This will include distance of 2 meters between candidates. It will include things like providing gel. We'll be asking you to wear masks during the session, but we'll be sending you information about that before your session so you know exactly how things will be working. We have added as many dates as possible to our calendar in June and July, but also we will be adding a couple of extra dates in August. There are dates in August, September, October, November, December. It's not just through June and July that you can do your exam. So check our exam calendar regularly for updates. I'll be sending you or passing you on a document with some links in a minute where you can have a link to our exam calendar and you can check the dates that are coming up. Just a reminder too that on our webpage we have a very useful section on the C1 Advanced. And there are different tabs for the format of the exam, some preparation ideas, information about results. So do make our website your sort of first port of call if you're looking for information about the exam or how to prepare for it. Also, you can keep in contact with us and we can update you on all sorts of things. Also, some ideas for preparation on our social media accounts on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. So please follow us if you don't already and interact with us via those social media accounts. And just one other little thing I wanted to mention is that this could be very useful for your preparation. Cambridge University Press Exam Booster for Advanced and Cambridge University Press, in reaction to the situation with COVID, have made this book available for students to download for free from their webpage. So on the document that I'm about to pass you, you'll find a link for that as well. And I think that's a really useful thing that you can access. So I'm going to share a document with you now in the chat. You can click on this document and download it. It has some useful links, including the link to the Cambridge Exam Booster. And that's really it from me. It's time for me to introduce our super exam expert, Sarah. Sarah, are you there?
I am.
Can you join us?
Yes, I am. Okay. Good morning. Thank you for this report.
Sarah is somebody who has dealt with the exams from pretty much every angle. That's right, Sarah. No, you've been a speaking examiner, you've trained speaking examiners, you've taught the exams, so she knows them inside out, and so that's really why we've invited her today to help you. So I'm going to leave things with Sarah, and I'll be popping back in and out during the morning. So please enjoy.
Okay. Thanks, Michael. Okay, so good morning, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for giving up your Saturday. All right. So this morning's little webinar is to give you tips and strategies on the C1 exam, the advanced exam. All right. So, I've gone. All right. So, hello again. Right. The aim of this is to give you these strategies and things to help you, the candidates, okay, on the day of the exam, because we all know on the day of the exam, we're all very nervous. Many people are very nervous. And a lot of the times you become other people. My students become people that they are unrecognizable because of nerves, etc. So hopefully this will be able to calm you down and get you settled before the exam. All right. So the idea is for you to be able to fulfill your potential 100%. Okay. Maximize your results. Try and get them better results. And so that you don't have any big surprises or anything that you are unexpected on the day of the exam. Right, so actually this is just before we start, okay? I'm going to go through each paper in the order that you would actually do it on the day of the exam, all right? So you would have the reading and the use of English. First, you'd have a wee break, then you have the writing, a wee break, the listening, a wee break, and then the speaking. You may do the speaking on the same day, or you could have the speaking a day before or a day after on a different date. All right. So 2 things. After each paper, I'm going to hold a question and answer session, which Michael will help me and he'll send me the questions, the main questions that people are asking. And then the other thing that I would like you to do is just a little poll. If you could just, okay, let's see, webinar, no, end poll, okay. Let's see. I'm trying to see the other poll. I had actually a poll there. It seems to have gone. I had a poll there to see what part of the exam you found the most difficult. All right. I don't seem to see it there. The usual. Lost in cyberspace, no doubt. Let me see if I can. Here we are. There we go. Okay. There you go. So if you could just quickly type in which part you find the most challenging. All right. There you go. Writing, okay. Reading and grammar, writing, listening, speaking, reading and use of English. Yeah. Reading and use of English is flying up the pole there. Okay. Writing, listening, speaking there as well. Okay, right. So basically I see it's the reading and the use of English. Okay, fair enough. The listening 15%, 10% writing 15 and speaking. Good. Okay, so you all seem pretty confident and the rest. Right, so the reading and the use of English seem to be the one. Okay, great. That helps a lot. Thank you very much. Okay, right. So let's start. Let's get started. Right, here you can see more or less where the C1 is, okay, on the scale, all right, which I'm sure you all know. Okay, right, so remember, when going into battle, to battle with the C1 exam, it's really important that you know what to expect, what you're going into, okay? And a lot of the times, some candidates don't know this, or students, okay? So if you know all this information beforehand, it can help you so much on the day, mainly because time management is so important. And as I said at the beginning, once you go into the exam atmosphere, okay, timing just goes out the window, okay? So like, for example, you have the reading and the use of English is 1 hour and 30 minutes, okay? 90 minutes to be exact, 8 parts, okay? So what that represents is that you have approximately 11.25 minutes, okay, to do each part, to read it, answer it, understand it, etc., and transfer your answers onto the answer sheet, or if it's computer-based, in the computer, okay? So, of course, there are parts that you will always do better, that you like better, you find easier, etc. So in those parts, you can actually avail then of that extra time that you have to add it to those magic 11.25 minutes for a reading that you find more difficult. Or question 4, part 4 of the use of English with the rephrasing where you know it's a bit more in depth and you might have to think a bit more. Okay, so it really is so important. Okay, then you have the writing, 1 hour and 30 minutes. You have 2 parts. One obligatory, the first part that you must do, and then the second part where you will have a choice. All right, we'll be going into detail about that later, so don't worry. But again, 1 hour and 30 minutes is fantastic. That's 90 minutes, which gives you approximately 45 minutes per writing. That's a lot of time. We have to avail of that time, okay? We have to learn to take advantage of that time. Okay, the listening is 40 minutes, okay? You've got 4 parts. The listening is started and it will not be stopped until the end, all right? So you've got to pay attention to what you're doing, listen carefully, etc. Always also remember, the listening is repeated twice, always. So don't panic if you don't get it the first time, okay? You'll get it the second time. I'm sure you will, okay? And then speaking. Okay, speaking is approximately 15 minutes if it's in a pair, all right? There are 4 parts. And then sometimes you may be put into a group of 3, okay? For reasons that somebody may have dropped out, somebody may have been sick on the day. If this happens, it will always be at the end of the session, all right? And you will be told beforehand. So if you do get a group of 3, it's 23 minutes long, okay? So your the time is added on to give each and every one of you a fair chance and the right and the same amount of time to speak. But it's very important that you know this. And if you are, for example, in an academy or with a group of people, I really advise you to, you know, practice in 3s as well, just so that it's not brand new on that day, okay? Just gives you a little bit more practice and it'll give you a little bit more confidence, all right? So it's nothing better than going into any exam part with confidence and knowing what to expect. Right, okay, so all of the 5 papers carry equal marks, okay? Sometimes we say 4 papers, sometimes we say 5, because the reading and the use of English go together, all right? And then you have the listening, the writing, the listening, and then the speaking, okay? So all of the papers weigh to a total of 40 marks, and then an overall total of 200, all right? It's not necessary to pass all 5 parts, okay, to get a C1 level. All right, and the final grade then is based on the total score of all of the 5 parts. So the results are reported on the Cambridge scale, as you can see. So you'll either get an A, B, C, or a B2, which means sadly or unfortunately you just didn't quite make it in certain parts, okay? So you can all see here, all right, to get an A, you need to get between 200 and 210 points. To get a B, 193 to 199 points, and then to get a C, 180 to 192. All right. If you get an A, well done, fantastic. All right, which would give you, it's a C2 level on a C1 paper. Okay. Right, so let's get started. Okay, reading and use of English. Right, so going to do the use of English part first. Okay, 4 parts. The first question is a multiple choice question. All right, A, B, C, D. There are 8 questions and you get 1 mark for each one. Okay, right. So what it is, it's a modified kind of closed test containing 8 gaps, as I'm sure you know, followed by 8 4-option multiple choice questions, A, B, C, or D. Okay. Part 2 is your open close. Again, 8 questions, 1 mark each. Remember, part 1, part 2, part 3 are all like texts. So you should always read them quickly first to get an idea of the whole text before deciding on your answers. So open close, part 2, a modified closed test, also containing 8 gaps. Here, like in part 1, the emphasis is also on vocabulary and grammar. Okay, an important thing to remember in part 2, 1 word in each gap only. All right. Word formation number 3. Again, 8 questions, 1 word, 1 mark per answer. Right, so here you will have a text containing 8 gaps. All right, and then at the end, each gap corresponds to a word. Okay, so the stems of the missing word are given beside the text, and they must be changed into the form of the missing word. They are always changed. They never stay the same. Okay, remember that they will always change, be it minimum, but they will always change. Okay, here the emphasis is 100% grammar. Vocabulary and also spelling. Spelling utmost importance. All right, and then part 4, the keyword transformation. Okay, where you've got 6 questions, and these are worth 2 marks maximum. Okay, so you can get a 0, a 1, or a 2 maximum. So always write an answer or part of an answer here, please. You might not get the full 2 marks, but you might get 1 part, the first half right or the second half right, which means you will get a point. Okay, but if you don't put anything, of course, you won't get anything. All right. So you must always try. Here, it's a mixture of both vocabulary and grammar. Okay, but we always have to look carefully at the grammar forms to see what they're asking us. Right, let's have a look at each part in detail. Right, so this is your multiple choice. Okay, don't worry if you can't see this clearly. It's just here for you to have an idea while I'm talking. Okay, right, you will always get an example. Okay, read the example. Okay, you got the instructions. Always read the instructions. The instructions are part of the exam. It's included. It's giving you something there to instruct you and help you and guide you to do this each exercise or each part correctly. Okay, so you can see it's a full text, and you can see here you have your choice A, B, C, or D. All right, so as I said, recommend you quickly read it once without looking even at the answers. All right, and then the second time, start looking at your ABCs. You need, and Ds, you need to make sure that you're not just looking at the words, just a couple of words before the gap and after the gap. No, read the whole sentence. The whole sentence could be 3 lines, it could be 2 lines, it could be 1. But read the whole sentence, okay? Because the word or something, the clue or the little thing that's going to help you could actually be further along in the sentence. It's not necessarily next to, okay? So you could be looking for your preposition, your collocation, things like that. These are the things you need to be looking for, all right? And you choose A, B, C, or D, okay? So as soon as you finish part 1, transfer your answers immediately to the answer sheet, okay? Pencil. Only pencil, okay? Listen carefully to what I'm going to say now. I know I'll repeat it again. Don't worry. The exam is done in pencil. The only part that's done in pen is the writing. Only. Every other part is done in pencil, except the speaking, of course, which is done with your mouth, needless to say. All right? So transfer. If you don't know an answer, you can use the exam paper. So you can like circle it or highlight it, and you can go back to it. But always remember to go back. All right? Okay, part 2. Again, you have your instructions. Look up here when you're transferring your answers onto the answer sheet. This is the way they're transferred. They must be transferred in capital letters. Okay, it's very important that your writing is clear. Okay, so it can be clearly read and the letters seen correctly. Here also spelling is important. Okay. So you can see again, you have the gaps. You can only write 1 word in these gaps, only 1 word, all right? And it will not be vocabulary based, okay? It won't be beautiful, for example, no, okay? It's going to be more grammar based, okay? Again, looking for collocations, looking for parts of phrasal verbs, etc. Another little wee clue to you here. No word, no answer will be repeated. No. Okay, so if you put what in, for example, number 9 or number 10, It won't be repeated in this text, okay? Very important, okay? So if you have, go back, double check and see which one is not needed, and just look for maybe a synonym, all right? Remember also here, contractions are 2 words, so don't use contractions. Contractions are 2 words, so it's automatically wrong, okay? Sometimes, as I said before, it can be part of like a grammatical tense, like past perfect continuous, had been working. So you might be missing the been, the had, or the working. So always look at the complete sentence, like I said before, okay? Right, moving on then to part 3. This is our spelling test, okay? This is where you have to become a teacher. Think like a teacher, okay? The good thing about this part is it can only be 4 types of words. It can only be a noun, an adjective, an adverb, or a verb, okay? So if it's a verb, and you know it's a verb that's missing, think logically, okay? Go through all the different forms of the verb it could be, okay? Adjectives. Remember, adjectives in English, you might think this is silly that I'm saying this, but you might sometimes confuse it because you might be thinking in your own language first, okay? Adjectives in English do not have plurals, all right? Adverbs, and then you've got your nouns, okay? The nouns, the biggest mistake that I've noticed with my students is that they make what I say to them, like it's a real bummer that they've made this mistake because they put the noun correctly, but in singular when it should be in plural, or they put it in plural when it should be in singular, all right? So when you're checking, once you have all your answers in all of the parts of the exam, read the whole text again to make sure it makes sense, to make sure it's in the right form that you actually need. Also, when you're doing these, you know that these are the 4 type of words you need. So always study the typical adjective endings, the typical adverb endings, the typical prefix, the typical suffix, the typical everything, okay? And when you don't know, you should always try and give an educated or logical guess, all right? So my typical question is, like, what is the most used prefix in the English language? Can you type it in there? Can you type it in the chat and let me see if anybody knows? What do you think is the most used prefix? Okay, I don't know if you're typing. I seem to get a little bit of a delay. So anyway, type it in, and if I can see it coming up, I'll let you know. All right, and then the spelling is also important. So again, when you finish part 1, transfer your answers immediately onto the answer sheet. Part 2 the same, and part 3 the same, okay? So make sure you're transferring it correctly and transferring it with the correct spelling. The good thing is that on the answer sheet, you have this to guide you, okay? So this is to help you to put each letter into each space, okay? All right. See, more people have just joined. Welcome, whoever has joined. Okay. Part 4. I think this is one of the most challenging, anyway, for my students. This is the part that they seem to find the most difficult, okay? Now, this part, as I said, is worth 0, 1, or 2 points, okay? So it's worth the most on the first part of the Reading and Use of English exam, okay? So it's in your interest to make sure you have enough time, give yourself enough time to do this, relaxed, don't leave it till the last, you get panicky, okay? You don't have to do, another little thing is you don't have to do the exam in the order, part 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do it in any order you want, okay? You can start with the readings and then do the use of English and vice versa. The most important thing is start with the ones that you are sure you're good at, you know that you do well, you do a little bit quicker, and as I said before, then you save those special, sacred minutes that you can add on to the parts where you find more difficult, which could be this part, okay? Right, again, you've got your instructions and you've got an example. Okay, the example shows you what you have to do. Remember, transferring your answers, you only have to transfer the words that are missing. You do not transfer the whole sentence. Very important, okay? Only the words that are missing. Here, again, writing your answers in capital letters, and here remembering that it would be a minimum of 3 words and a maximum of 6. Minimum 3, maximum of 6. If you have less than 3 or more than 6, something is wrong. Go back, see what you've done wrong. A lot of the times it might be one of the relative pronouns. It could be who, which, what, where, etc. Okay? Because in Spanish and in Catalan, you tend to use them a lot more than we do in English. A lot more. Lots of times in English, it's not even needed. So a lot of the times, that's your extra word that you don't need. Okay? So just double check that always. Okay? Right. So again, you have your prompt sentence, so you have full sentence, and then you have a word in bold. This is the word that you must include in the minimum 3, maximum 6, okay? You cannot change this word, and you have to use this word, okay? So keep that in mind. So you should always read the prompt sentence first, the word, and then the second sentence. And then go back to the prompt sentence and underline the part in this sentence that our word is substituting, okay? So underline it and then go to the second sentence and then have a look at how this goes in here, okay? So it can be many different things. It could be tense versus tense. It could be a phrasal verb. It could be synonym of, I don't know, it could be although, and in here you have to use despite. So you're followed by different things, etc. It could be grammar formats, verb formats following with ing, with an infinitive, etc. Okay? So when you're finished, read both sentences again, not just the answer, okay? Because if you only read the answer, you're going to think it's correct anyway because you've written it, no? So a clue is, or a little good idea is always to read the first sentence again, look at the word and read your answer again to make sure. Counting, even if you have to use your fingers, use them. Make sure. Minimum 3, maximum 6, okay? And then transfer your answers onto the answer sheet immediately. Okay, in this part you haven't got, like in the other parts, like you had, let's go back here, like here for each letter, no. Okay, you have just a blank slot, so you need to write it in there. Again, as I say, if you don't know, try and give a logical, educated guess. If it's a phrasal verb, put the preposition that you use most, for example, or what you think sounds good. Always try. It's very important. You should always try. Okay, right. Moving on. Okay, so just a quick summary before you can ask me any questions. So part 1 is a vocabulary test, okay? So you've got your words differences. When do we use this word? You could have 4 words that mean the same thing, more or less, but they cannot be used in the same context, all right? Sometimes you can eliminate incorrect options. So sometimes you automatically know that B is invalid in this sentence. So, cross it out, because then that gives you that little advantage of only having to choose between 3 words, from 3 words, okay? Identifying the degree of meaning of similar words, okay? Cope, manage, overcome, right? These are very similar, but they cannot be used in the same text, all right? That's what they're testing you on. And also think context, okay? The sentence, the text level, what are they looking for? In what context do they want me to give the answer to these questions? As I said before, look out for your typical collocations, your phrasal verbs, and your set verbs, okay? Very important. So again, reading the whole sentence, not just the line. Read the whole sentence, not just around the gap. Okay, part 2 then. Okay, this is testing your grammar, all right? There will be no vocabulary words here, as I said before. Okay, so the answers are simple grammatical words, not obscure vocabulary, okay? So think, typical words that are missing, pronoun, auxiliaries, part of verb tense, conjunctions, comparisons, the typical ones, not the typical ones, should I say, like least, most, less, as, things like that. Okay, sometimes when we're doing an exam, and a C1 level is a very high level, sometimes we ourselves want to complicate things more, and sometimes we need to just relax and look for what they're giving us in the text, and it may not have to be a complicated answer, okay? Right, reading the whole text and then the whole sentence, not just around the gap. You need to train yourself to always read first reading, and then the second answer. I always try and convince my students to read it twice and then do it, but I know on the day nerves, but I do insist or really advise you to read it once at least, okay? If you think you know the answer before even looking, write it in pencil. If it's wrong, you just erase it, okay? Right. More than one answer may be correct, okay? Sometimes, I'm sure you've done it in class or whatever, you can have which or that for an example, okay? That's fine, but you can only write one of those. Do not write which/that. No. Choose one or the other, okay? Very important. When you're transferring, write your answers in capitals. Super important. Part 3 then, the spelling test, as I say. Right, it's all vocabulary, okay? So they're word forms and spelling, all right? So, as I said before, it could need a prefix, a suffix. It might need both. It might change in the middle, okay? It might be a very small change. It might be a complete different, like a big change, okay? But it must change. Remember, it always changes, all right? So the word could change in the sense, like I said, for example, wide, width, long, length. All of those words, they're typical ones that come up in the exam. The word may need to be made into the negative. Yeah, very important. So see if they're looking for a negative, if it's a negative context, okay? Most of the time, there's nearly always one negative word, okay? It could be because of the prefix or it could be because of the suffix, all right? So double check. Identify the part of the speech that's missing. If you don't know the answer automatically, then identify the part. Think, what is this sentence missing? Is it missing a noun? Is it missing an adjective? All right, adjective, great. What are the typical adjective endings? Let me think. There's these 5, 6 typical ones. Let's go through. And that's the way to do it when you're not sure, okay? That will help you a lot because it'll clear your mind of little other, all these words that are coming into your head, okay? So when that happens, stop, take a deep breath, think. Think like a teacher. What word is missing here, okay? Be careful with spelling. The spelling has to be correct or you won't get your marks. Again, read the whole text again. Look for the context and clues, but read it again when you have your answers. Okay, again, when you read it again, once your answers are in there, you might see a little mistake. You might see a noun should have been single, you put it in plural or vice versa. Okay, and writing our capital letters in the answer sheet. Okay, part 4, okay, the one that's worth the most points, is a mixture of grammar and vocabulary, okay? So you've got to transform one sentence into another, as I said before, using the word given, okay? The answer must not exceed 6 words, okay? Cannot exceed 6 words, and the contractions are 2, like I've said, I've, he'd, there, etc. So you don't use any contractions. The keyword must be used in the answer and cannot be changed, all right? And 2 marks for each, okay? So you either get 0, 1, or 2. So remember, you could have the first part of the sentence incorrect, but the second part correct, you still get 1 point. Or you could have the first part correct and the second part incorrect, but you'll get a point for the first part. So always try, okay? Always, always try. Okay, and again, writing in capital letters on your answer sheet. So remember, question done, transfer it onto the answer sheet immediately. Do not leave the transferring till the end. Time goes by so quickly. If you're the only thing that is corrected is the answer sheet. Your question papers are collected and destroyed. Okay, that's why you can write and do anything you want basically on them to help you focus or whatever. It's only the answer sheet. So if you have not filled in the answer sheet, you won't get any points. Okay, right, I'm going to invite Michael back in now and see if you have any questions. But before he's there, hello Michael, before you do, I just want you there. You can have a quick look at the questions and let me know. I'm going to give them a quick tip. So remember, always read the instructions. It gives you the information. Check your spelling. Only write one answer to each question. Leave and return to difficult questions. Don't stay, don't waste time. Leave it, circle it in red, circle it, whatever, go back, but always go back to it. Okay? Please try and write an answer to all your questions. Read and check your completed gaps and sentences to make sure they make sense. And remember your capital letters in parts 2 and part 4. Okay? Please plan your time carefully. Do not spend too long on one part. You might think 2 minutes isn't long. In an exam, 2 minutes are very valuable for something else, okay? You might think it's only 2 minutes and you'll have already spent 10 minutes. I'm telling you, it's true. You don't realize it. Even though there's a clock in the room where you're doing it, because you're so concentrated, you forget time, okay? Right. Things to avoid: not answering all the questions, spelling mistakes in all the parts, or not writing in capital letters. Putting vocabulary and not grammatical words in part 2, okay? No vocab, no. All grammar in part 2. Changing the word given in part 4, not allowed. Putting more or less than 3 to 6 words in part 4, and not leaving sufficient time for all parts. Okay, Michael, give us some of those interesting questions.
Right, well, there's a couple of questions here. On a sort of practical level, Martina is asking, do you have to answer in capital letters in the computer-based exam?
Okay, in the computer-based exam, no, I mean the computer-based is like with the computer, so you type in the words.
It's not necessary because really the capital letters issue is to make sure that your answer is legible. And in the computer-based exam, as you're typing it in, you can just type it in lowercase. That's fine.
Yeah, good question.
Then Alba is saying, could we go through some of the typical endings for each word type? Adjectives, adverbs, verbs, nouns.
I can give you them off the top of my head, but I mean, I'm sure you can you can look them up yourselves and stuff like that. Let me see. Let's see. Typical, right? Typical, for example, typical noun endings are your ion, no, ion, ant, meant, ist, musician, shin, or typical adjective endings, if, distinctive, able, capable, able, responsible, responsible, dangerous, us, ing, ed. They're your typical kind of adjective endings that we have, right?
I think with those things too, Sarah, would you agree that mostly if you type something in, the internet's a great source of information for some of these things. If you type in typical adjective endings in English, there's usually a list. Yeah.
So it's just handy to know the typical ones, all right, to expect.
Exactly. Anything else? Does anybody have any other questions about the reading and use of English? You want to type them into the chat box?
Because I can't see any questions.
I think that's pretty much. Yep, Effie's typed in some of the typical noun endings. Thank you, Effie. That's great.
You.
So I think we should move on, Sarah. If we can check later. If
we can check later. Okay, no problem. Okay, nice. So we're moving on then. Thanks, Michael. Okay, then to the reading parts. Okay, so you have 4 parts. Okay, so again, the texts are quite long and can be quite dense. So, reading, you've got to practice your reading skills also at home. For example, I always advise my students, like from one, depending, no, I'm just saying what I do with my students. Like if they're doing the exam, well, from January onwards, I make sure that they time themselves reading. Okay, it doesn't matter to me if they go over the time because they're learning, they're practicing, they're not actually sitting the exam until June or July or whenever. But I do insist that they time themselves. And then if you time yourself, you can make sure the next time you're doing it a little bit quicker, etc. It is very, very important. Okay, right. So there are 4 parts. So you have 11.25 minutes, as I said, to read the 8 parts of the reading and the use of English. All right, to read it all, understand it as much as possible, give the answers, and then transfer. A lot of things to do in 11.25 minutes, okay? Right, so you have 4 parts. You've got the multiple choice, okay? So there's 6 questions here, and you get 2 marks for each one, all right? So it's a text, and it's followed by 4 option multiple choice questions, A, B, C, or D, okay? So the emphasis here is on understanding a long text. Very important. Read the text first. Don't even look at the questions. Don't look at the questions, right? Don't be naughty. Sometimes you have that temptation to go, just have a quick look. No, believe me. What's going to happen is they confuse you, okay? Because you've got A, B, C, and D. We'll go into detail when we're looking at them in a minute, okay? Part 6, cross-text multiple matching, okay? 4 questions here to be answered, 2 points or 2 marks per question, okay? So these are 4 short texts followed by multiple matching questions, all right? So the emphasis here is identifying opinions, attitudes, things expressed in each of the text. If it's positive, if it's negative, all right? So that's important to take into account and think about as well when you're looking for the correct answer. Okay, question 7 is the gapped text. Okay, so gaps have been extracted. You've got to put them back in the right order. What they're testing you here is actually sequence. Okay, can you follow a sequence like a story, the way a story is written? Okay, the correct order, etc. Okay, again, there are 6 questions here that are worth 2 marks each. Okay, so text that has the gaps removed, they're placed all jumbled up, not in the order, A, B, C, etc. And then you have to choose the correct one. Okay, so it's very important, again, here, because you're understanding how a text is structured, okay? So it's asking you to look at the structure and the sequence. Okay, then we have part 8, the multiple matching, okay? So here you have 10 questions, okay? And they're worth 1 mark each, okay? So then you decide more or less which ones that you want to do, no? First or whatever. I'd recommend the 2-point ones first, okay? Be careful with part 8. Very time consuming. Again, you're not taking note of the time going by, so do be careful. Okay, so this could be a text or it could be several short texts, okay? and then preceded by multiple matching questions. All right. So you have to match the prompt with the elements from the text. Okay. My advice here with 5, 6, and 7, read the text first, questions later. With 8, no. Read what they give you first, the information that they need to find, underline, and then read the texts. Okay. I think it's important that you know what you're looking for in number 8. Okay, so you're trying to locate specific information. So you're looking at detail, opinion again, attitude, language. All right, so synonyms, words that mean the same thing. Right, so here we go. Right, this is what you have in part 1. So you can see, like, it's a fairly long text, you know, a lot of reading going on there. So you need to train yourself, okay, to do it in like time or less time. Again, as I said, always choose the reading that you do well first, etc. Okay. Also remember, there's going to be readings that you like more or less. That is not important. Go into the exam knowing that you have to do 4 texts, whether you like them or not. Okay. So keep that in mind. Read the instructions, because in the instructions it tells you what type of text or what type of thing you're going to read. So that helps you subconsciously. Your mind clicks in article, clicks in an extract from a book, etc. So your mind is going to be helping you subconsciously. So always read your instructions. So as I said, read the text quickly, all right, first, and then go to the questions, all right? In this part, the questions follow the order of the text, all right? So for example, this question is not going to be here. It's going to be somewhere here, okay? So read the question first, underline what they are asking you, and go back to the text and try and find it. When you think you found it, underline it or highlight it. This saves you so much time. Practice this before you go into the exam. My students used to think it's just a waste of time, but then you find out when you're looking for the correct answer or you've given the wrong answer, if you've got to go back, it helps you see where you found the wrong or the right answer. It helps you a lot, I promise, believe me. Okay, when you think you found the answer, then go and read your ABCDs, okay? If you read the ABCD first, like some of them are very, very similar. There might be one word that's changing the meaning, etc. So they can distract you. They're giving you too much information. We don't want that. We don't want to be saturated in a multiple choice reading question, okay? Again, if you don't know the answer, logical guess, A, B, C, or D, okay? My students make me laugh because sometimes when they don't know an answer to one, they look and they do it kind of mathematically, thinking like there's 2 A's, 1 B, so it has to be C. That's fine, as long as you're doing it, but try and do a logical guess, okay? Sometimes also you can eliminate an answer or two also before knowing that that's not the correct answer. But remember, the tricky thing here is to make sure that you are answering the questions that is being asked, okay? Right, okay, so here again, reading the instructions, remember it helps you, gives you a little bit of information. You have your 4 texts, okay, and here you have your 4 questions. All right, I think it's very helpful if you read, say, each text and then somewhere here or after or here, wherever you want. Remember, you can write on the paper, the exam paper, write like if it's a more positive opinion or attitude or a more negative, a mixture, etc. after each one, because then when you look at the questions, this might help you to go straight to extract A rather than C, etc. Okay, then read your questions, okay? Look at the language that's used. Look and see if it's asking for a positive or a negative thing, okay? So it normally asks you which, reader or which writer doesn't agree with the rest, etc. Okay, so you need to be looking out for words and language that's going to help you with that. Okay, don't rely on your little word matching and stuff like that. No, not at a C1 level, not at all. Okay, rely on synonyms, different ways of saying the same thing. Okay, right. So, and here you write your answer. Right, this is a little tip, nothing more. Okay, so it's not. Don't quote me on it, as we say. A lot of times here, one of the answers is repeated. I'm just throwing that out there, okay? Just so that you know, all right? Okay, not always, but a lot of times. Okay, then part 7 of the reading, okay, where you can see here that the gaps have been removed, all right? Remember, there's one extra that you do not need to use, okay? There's one that you don't need to use. Now, a lot of people think that this is to confuse, to make it even more difficult for the poor owl candidate to do the exam. but it's not actually. It's actually there to help you, okay? Because if they didn't have an extra one, if you chose A for the first answer and B for the second answer, and it's vice versa, okay, you don't get one wrong, you get two wrong. All right, so this extra gap here, or this extra answer, can help you avoid losing 2 points rather than only one. Okay, so it is there to help you. Okay, so again, you have your instructions, read them carefully. And here you'd read the text if I were you first, and then quickly read all of these. And here, underline any words that are going to help you, like connectors, contrast words, however. So you're going to be looking for something that's giving us a contrast. Pronouns, okay, they're using proper nouns and then using pronouns after, etc. Positive language, negative language, okay. And also remember to read before and after, okay. The answer is not necessarily here. Remember, they've removed like a chunk, okay. So this chunk might be connected to something down here, all right, as well. So always read before and after each time. Always, 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 okay? And underline any of the parts that you think are going to help you. When you've read them, go through it again. Make sure it makes sense. Make sure that the sequence, it's a correct sequence. The order of the text is correct, all right? And then the multiple matching, okay? So as I said there at the beginning, in part 8, okay, again, read this, and I would advise you to definitely read this first and underline what they're looking for. Underline what they're looking for, okay? You know that the answers can be repeated, okay? And also, again, here, underlining the parts that you're looking for. So I would read these first and underline them, and then quickly just read these to get an idea. A lot of the time when you're going back and forward, okay, by the time you get to around here, you probably know, I think that was in text B, I think that was in text C. So, you do get quicker at doing it, okay? But again, if you don't know one of the answers or you're running out of time, logical guess. Remember, reading finished, transfer immediately. Okay, every question, transfer them immediately. Do not wait until the end, okay? I know this from experience, and I know because I had students myself who I said, I can't believe you didn't remember, okay? Timing is of the essence, all right? So those special minutes that you were able to save up from doing the other parts quicker, use them for the reading that you find the most difficult, okay? Right, so part 5, 2 marks for each question. Don't do it last, okay? I recommend you not to do it last, but you could do it last if you want, okay? The reason I have that here is because it's worth 2 points per one. But I mean, if you do other ones quicker, say if you do question 8 quicker and you do it better, well, then do that first and then go back. I mean, it really is up to you. This is just advice, okay? Read the text first and then the questions, and they all come in order, okay? So the last question is not going to be at the beginning of the text. Remember that. So you don't have to go back and read it all again, okay? Read in depth to distinguish like what are apparently similar viewpoints and outcomes, but always answer the question that they are asking you. Final question may test, the interpretation of the whole text. So it could be how the reader feels, what's his opinion, what its attitude in general, okay? Part 3 tests your understanding of development of the ideas, opinions, and events. Okay, so be careful with that. All right, don't use the recognition of words, of individual words. No, as a context. Okay, part 6, 2 marks again for each question. Try not to do it last. Read the text again first, and then read all the answers. Okay, remember the multiple choice question, find the answer, then look at the ABCDs. Number 2, read all the text, read the answers. There are always connections. So look for the theme. Look for the theme, look for the pronouns, the connectors, the context, positive, negative, and as I said, reading forwards and backwards all the time. Okay, writing alongside the 4 if it's positive in meaning or attitude, etc. It'll really help you. 7, the gapped text, the chunks. Again, 2 marks. Don't do it last. Okay, again, read the text first and then read the answers, always underlining connections, okay? So as soon as you see a word that you think is going to help you in the text, underline it. As soon as you see a word that you think is going to help you in the answers, underline it, okay? Helps you to draw your attention and concentrate. There are always connections, the same as in 6. Themes, pronouns, connectors, context, positive, negative, attitudes, feelings, very important, okay? Part 8, read the question first, as I said, underline the part that they're asking you, okay? And then there are always the same connections, okay? Your themes, your ideas, opinions, connectors, context. Okay, don't simply look for simple words or similar words. No, doesn't work at this level. I'm sure you all know that anyway, okay? Read it in depth, and connectings, again, also can be with forwards and backwards with the text, depending on what they give you, okay? Remember, if you're not sure and you don't know an answer, just put a logical guess if you can, okay? Don't leave spaces. So, you can do the various parts of the test in any order, 5, 6, 7, 8, or you can do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Okay? Cross off the questions that you have answered and you are sure of, so you're not going back and forward and wasting time. All right? Valuable time. Okay? Eliminate the answers that you are sure are wrong. Again, cross them out. Best thing. You can always underline the answer. It's in the text. Remember, within the reading part, the answer is in the text. It's not here. You've got to find it in the text. If it's not in the text, it's wrong. A lot of the times what we do is we think we read between the lines. No, okay, not only if it's a general question. No, or we tend to think, well, I would do that, or I think it would that. No, don't think. Go back to the text. Find the word. Find the proof. Find the proof. Okay. Right, calmly transfer your answers to the answer sheet each time, okay? Leave time for this and be sure to avoid the possibility of putting the answers in the wrong section, okay? Because sometimes you're very nervous and you're doing it fast, so always make sure it's in pencil. If you make a mistake, you erase it. It's simple as that, all right? Okay. Arriving late and therefore stressed on the exam. This is for any part of the exam, okay? Remember, you've got breaks. Be back in time. Always be back in time. Arriving with no identity card or pencil, okay? You need your ID card. It has to be updated. It cannot be out of date. Be very careful. Pencil, right? Because we're doing everything in pencil except the writing. Mismanagement of time. This is the trap. Be very careful. Not transferring the answer to the answer sheet or doing it incorrectly. So always double check. Take your time. Use your fingers like this one to this one, this one to this one. Okay? Not returning to different questions. Not answering all the questions. So when you're going over your answer sheet, see if there's any gaps there and go back and find the answer. Not reading the instructions first. Remember, the instructions are so important. I don't know what it is about us human beings. We just hate reading instructions, don't we? We just think we know everything and start reading. Well, no. Remember, information is in the instructions. Read it. It's only going to take you a couple of seconds. Not checking your answers and jumping to conclusions. Not a good idea. Matching words instead of reading in depth. Okay? Right, we'll ask Michael to come back in now and see if anybody's any questions there that we can help them out with.
Yeah, there are a couple of little ones that came up after we went on. A couple of people were asking, is there any recommended order to do the questions in the reading and use of English?
No, it's like I just said. My recommendation is you should do the ones that you know that you do best first. Mm-hmm. Okay, because that will always just give you those extra valuable minutes for the ones that the parts that you find more difficult. The most important thing is to make sure that you do all the parts, of course. But by transferring the answers onto the answer sheet each time you finish a question, then you'll be able to see clearly which parts you haven't answered.
Mm-hmm. And Sonia wanted to check that you'd said that in the open close you can't repeat words. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. The word will never be repeated.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. What else have we got here? Alba was asking about making notes in the computer-based exam.
Yeah. Okay. In the computer-based, you're also given paper. Okay. So you can write notes and write anything to help you. That's fine. You need to give that piece of paper at the end of the exam. But also on the computer, you have like a highlighter button, etc. So you can actually highlight and do things with the computer as well. Okay, so that's it's a great help also for you. All right. So no problem there.
You have a highlighter and you have a little function like a post-it note. So you can bring up a post-it note. You can make a little note about part of the text so that you can come back and look at that later.
All right. Don't forget to answer number 2. I didn't answer number 2. Little things like that. Little reminders.
Yeah. And Albert was asking, could you repeat the tip that you mentioned for part 6?
Tip for part 6. Okay, so part 6 is well, the tip is, I don't know which tip he's talking about. I'll do it quickly. Right. You've got your 4 different texts. Okay. When you read the text, quickly write next to it or somewhere near it if it's positive in meaning, if this writer is being positive, negative, if it's got a mixture of ideas, opinions, and feelings, etc. And then in your 4 questions, underline the part that, because a lot of the times is which writer does not agree with 2 of the, etc. Okay, and sometimes, okay, or a lot of the times, one of the answers is repeated. Okay, but as I said, don't quote me on it, but a lot of the times I have noticed over the years that one of the answers can be repeated. Okay, I hope that helped you.
And just a practical issue, Adria was asking about the break after paper 1. Maybe I can answer that, Sarah.
Yes, I think I leave that to you, Michael, because you know that better than I do.
Yeah, I mean, the break is once we've taken in the papers, you probably have about 15 to 20 minutes break before part 2. And then you need to come back in time to be able to get ready for the second paper, have your ID checked and so on. With the sessions that will be running in June and July, because of the situation with COVID-19, it's probable that you'll be asked just to stay in your place during the break. You'll be able to stand up, you'll be able to stretch, you'll be able to go to the toilet in small groups or one by one. You can bring something to your desk that you want to eat if it's in a clear plastic bag. But because we have to be careful with people maintaining the correct distance, social distancing is going to be very important. We and other exam centres have decided that remaining in your place during the break is probably the best way to do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Michael.
I think, and Jen Raquel has said part 7 is the most difficult for me. One more tip, please.
One more tip. Okay. All right, let's see. If it's the most difficult for you, do you know what I get my students to do? So if you've got a friend, get a magazine or get something and get them to cut out part of the text and hide it. They give you the text back, you read it, and then get those pieces and try and put them back in again. It's just to draw your attention to sequence, to order, looking at the pronouns, looking at the language, looking at what the language is saying. All right, looking for those little clues, the positive words, negative words, attitudes, etc. And practice. Practice makes perfect, as we like to say. And writing little notes. Remember, write little notes to yourselves as well. They're very handy.
Perfect. I'm going to disappear again.
Right. Thank you, Michael. See you soon. Writing. Okay, guys. Writing. 2 parts. The first part is compulsory. Got to do it, no matter what. Okay? So it's an essay. You know it's an essay. You have to write it. What do? You learn the structures and the language for an essay. You go in there knowing what an essay is, knowing the type of language that is needed. Okay? So that is very important for you. Okay? Right. Both of the writings are worth 20 marks. All right. You have to write between 220 and 260 words. Okay. You're given this. This is structured writing. You're given this number of words for a reason. You have to try and stick to it. Okay. If you write a little bit less or you write a little bit over, it's not a major problem. But if you write a lot less or a lot over, it is, okay, because you're probably not answering the whole question if you don't write enough words. And if you write too much, you're probably writing some irrelevant material that's not even needed. And also when it's irrelevant and we're writing more, we tend to make more silly mistakes, okay? Right, so you're required to write an essay between 220 and 260 words based on 2 points given in the text input. Okay, you're actually given 3, but you only have to write about 2. Okay, so read your instructions carefully. All right, you'll be asked to explain which of the 2 points is more important and give reasons for your answer. Okay, so you've got 2 points, you've got to talk about them, then choose whichever one of these you think is important and explain why. All right, so remember that you need to defend why. Okay, a lot of my students or a lot of people write, I think both of them are important because whatever. That's not what you're asked. You're asked to choose one and say why. Read the instructions carefully, okay? Right, and then in the second, you're also given some quotes and things which we'll have a look at in a minute. Right, so the writing paths, you've got 3 to choose from, okay? But you only choose one. You only write about one of them, okay? Again, the number of words is exactly the same, okay? So you have to choose between a letter and an email, proposal, report, and a review. Okay, so this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 types of writing. It's not really 5 types of writing. I'm going to make it easier for you. A letter and an email are basically the same style, the same type of language to be used, formal, informal, etc. Okay, but the actual writing style and the format is the same. Proposal and a report, all exactly the same. Do you all? I hope you all know the difference about a proposal report. Report is always something about something that you've done or know about or have been asked about, and a proposal is always proposing something, ideas or whatever for the future. Okay, but the style and the format are very, very similar. And then a review about a place, thing, person, etc. Okay, so again, you know the type of writings that you're going to get. So what do? You look and see the typical type of language that is expected in this. If you're going to write a review, you need to be using loads of super interesting adjectives. Okay, if you're going to be writing a proposal, you need or a report. Okay, you need to be writing it formally, putting the subheadings, the heading, etc. All right. Very important, okay? And all of this information, if you're using course books, they're at the back of your course book, okay? I swear by the back of course books with the writing, because a lot of the times they'll give you an example and then they'll give you little blocks here on the right-hand side or the left-hand side or somewhere with all the different synonyms or different ways of saying the same thing, okay? When you're writing, if you use however, okay? If you use it once, that's great. If you use it twice, if you're using it 3 times, no. That's showing, a lack of language. Okay, not a good thing. So always have 3 or 4 different types of expressions and things ready for you. Okay, right. So here you've got part 1. This is the obligatory part, okay? Also make sure you're writing the answer on the correct answer sheet. Okay, so they give you the information here and they give you 3 points. You choose 2. Choose the 2 that you know the most vocabulary for and the most language for, okay? And then here are some of the opinions used or said by the student or whatever, which you can also use to help you. Okay, but try and put your own words, try and change it a little bit. Don't be copying from the exam paper. And then down here it'll tell you, okay, choose 2, write about them, then say which one you think is best and why. Very important, okay? And then question 3, where you have 2, 3, and 4, and you choose one of them. Read them all. Okay, I mean, if you're lucky and there's a review and you're good at review, well then do the review. Okay, choose the one that you know that you're good at. A lot of students choose the ones that they like best. Oh, I like that theme. Oh, I like that idea. No, if you don't have enough language for that idea, don't choose it. Okay, you're being marked on what you know, not on what you like. Big difference. Okay, so be very careful that you write them in the right answer sheet paper as well. Okay, so 45 minutes. It's a lot of time. You can do a lot of good writing in 45 minutes. Planning, etc. Again, you can use the blank paper, the extra paper they give you, and you can use the exam paper. Okay, but be very careful. When I see my students, or if I'm invigilating or whatever, I see students writing. Their plan is one composition, and then they're copying it again onto the answer sheet. So they're writing 2. No reason to do that at all. And you're not actually writing it correctly. What you're doing is you're just copying, okay? That's not a good thing because you're copying under pressure, speed, etc. So, in actual fact, the first one that you wrote out is probably even better than the second one. But there you go. Be careful. Train yourself to do a short plan. Ideas. Write your ideas, the language that you want to use on the exam paper. It's much easier and much more helpful and much more helpful for you to organize your ideas too. So put your pen down, read and fully comprehend the question. Read all the input material that you get. There's less input in the first and the second normally. Okay. Underline any aspects and identify the question. Underline the parts that you have to include. Answer the question and include all the points. Cross them off when you've included them so then you're not repeating yourself. Plan and organize your answer. Have your introduction, answering the question in 2 or 3 paragraphs there, and then your conclusion paragraph. All right. Use names if they are given. Okay, they're there for a reason. Use them. It'll help you as well. Concentrate. Okay. Use your paragraphs. Have your introductory sentence there. Don't copy the question, but you can rephrase the words or you can refer to it. Okay, and leave time to check your answer. Okay. Right. Another thing I see students doing is counting the words. Oh my, that's a waste of time. Listen to me. Or writing 107 up. Don't do that. Look. What you do is you write 4 or 5 paragraphs, okay? So let's say 5 paragraphs. Each paragraph should be 4, 5, 6 lines maximum. That's it. If that's the way it is, you don't even need to count. That would be approximately that amount, the correct amount of words. So don't waste your time counting the words. Don't. And then you lose count. You've got to go back and start again. Nightmare in an exam situation. Okay, time is of the essence. You need all your valuable time for thinking about what you're going to write, not counting. Okay. Part 2, again, you've got your 45 minutes. I mean, you might do part 1 quicker, so those extra minutes in part 1, great. Give you more time to think about more good language in part 2. Okay, so know how to write a letter, email, proposal, review, or report. Like I said, remember the language, learn it off by heart, adapt it, use the back of your course book. An essay and an article are also useful to know, just for the language and stuff, but you know the essay from the first one anyway. Be sure to use the appropriate paragraphs, titles, subheadings, and the style, okay? Very important, okay? Identify the question, underline what you want to write about, what you want to do, mark the question clearly, okay? And answer the question, organizing it clearly, okay? In the answer sheet for writing number 2, you have a little box where you write the number you've chosen, if you've chosen number 2, number 3, or number 4, okay? And leave time at the end to check and read back, okay? Okay, so put your pen down, read the instructions, identify the question. Underlining the information that is important, plan your answer. As I said, 90 minutes is loads of time, okay? Identifying the question, your little replan, writing the answer, and then checking. You need this time, okay? Organize your answers and paragraphs. Always use C1 connectors, okay? I put a few connectors here, not necessarily C1, but what I'm trying to say here is a lot of times students think, oh, I've done a great writing and I made hardly any mistakes. And you probably have, and well, fair play to you. But what you haven't done is you haven't used C1 language. You might have used lower, a B2 language. So therefore, you're not going to get the points. You're not going to get the points that are needed in order to reach the C1 level. So just because you've written a great writing doesn't necessarily mean it's a great C1 writing. So you need to remember that, okay? So trying to show, you're being marked on the quantity and quality of the language that you know, okay? So try not to be repetitive, okay? Demonstrate this range of grammar and verb tense that you know. Concentrate also on good handwriting, clear handwriting and presentation, okay? A lot of people I've seen as well, writing in a pencil, then writing over that pencil in pen, and then using the eraser. Don't do that. Remember, these are scanned. If you do that, the scan might not be clear, okay? So be very careful. No, okay? Remember, you have to write in pen. Pen for the writing. No Tipp-Ex allowed. You are not allowed Tipp-Ex, and you are not allowed to use erasable pens either. No, pen. If what you've said is wrong, cross it out neatly and write what you wanted next to it, and that's it. Because sometimes you might write, I always use the word beautiful, I suppose, or responsible because of the typical mistakes. Beautiful with correctly, and then think, ooh, what's wrong? Cross it out and then write it without the you. Whereas your first answer was actually correct. So be very careful of that, okay? And write within the correct number of words. Right, failing to answer the question, writing the incorrect style. Remember, proposal and reports must look and read like they are formal writing, so you must use formal language. Not using enough words or too many, okay, not including all the points, not managing your time correctly and failing to show your wide range of language, handwriting, okay, not using a pen, remember, pen, disorganized writing, no paragraph, no connectors, not good, not checking your writing, okay, so you could have too many minor errors, so be very, very careful with that. And answering the 2 questions from part 2, no, you only answer 1. Okay, Michael, you can come in there now if you want and see if you have any questions there for the writing. Oh, have we lost you, Michael? Okay, well, we'll just continue, and then when Michael does come in, if there's any questions about the writing, then he can ask me, okay? So I'm going to swiftly move on then to the listening, okay? So again, don't worry, keep writing your questions when Michael comes back. Oh, there he is. Speak of the devil. Hello, there he is.
There were some questions for the writing. Pedro was asking, in the letter or email, must it be formal? Or can they choose?
No, they can't. They can't choose. They'll be told in the instructions. So from the instructions, if you're writing to a friend, it's going to be informal. If you're writing a letter of complaint or you're writing about something, it's going to be formal. Okay, that's why it's very important to read the whole instruction part. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And Aida is asking, do we have to express the same opinions as the examples given for the essay, or can we express a contrary opinion?
Well, you have to use the information that's given. They want you to include those two and then say why. So, I mean, what it is, it's a structure. They're telling you what they want you to write. I mean, if you can say, you could, if you wanted to say something like, some people think that this may not be, but, etc. But it's better to stick to what they're asking you to write, okay?
Mm-hmm. And Che is asking about the review. Should the review be in formal language, or is it not necessary?
No, it's not necessary. Again, a review can be for a magazine or a newspaper, etc. So it's kind of semi-neutral, isn't it? Really. So it's more like for the reader. It's got to be reader friendly. So it can be a bit more informal. It's got to have the right chatty language, the great adjectives and things to draw the reader's attention.
Sure. Christina says, should we start with the essay that we think is easiest for us to write?
Yes, always. It's, because what that's going to do? It's going to give you extra time to think more, to search for more good language and grammar,
Mm-hmm. Martina says, does the heading count in the word count?
No. The subheading, it's the format. That would be that's the format. So it would be the part. Yeah, I mean, your heading isn't going to be like 25 words long. It'll only be like 2 or 3. So no, don't worry about that.
And Nerea says, do we have to write in capital letters in the writing exam?
No, you don't have to write in capital letters. But I mean, if you know that your writing is sometimes illegible, well, then you've got to be very, very careful and make sure that it can be understood. I mean, for a person that has never written a whole composition or writing in capital letters, it's going to take you much longer. It's going to be more stressful. What you need to do is make sure your writing is as clear and as legible as possible.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that's about it. I'm going to let you get on.
Right, thanks, Michael. Okay, listening. Right, 4 parts. It's approximately 40 minutes. It starts and it's not stopped until the end, okay? Right, you're giving your instructions, you're given time before each one, etc. Okay? So, avail of this time and you have to answer the answers on an answer sheet. You get the question paper, you answer the answers on the question paper, and then you have 5 minutes at the end to transfer them. Transfer them as quick as you can. If there's things that you're not sure of, don't be hesitating and thinking about them. No, transfer it even if it's wrong, and then you can erase it and change it at the end. Okay, so be very careful. Right, so you hear each part twice, always. Multiple choice, 6 questions, 1 mark. Okay, you hear 3 short extracts, which are completely different. Okay, they're completely different contexts. All right, interacting speakers, and you've got 2 multiple choice questions on the extract. Okay, so here what they're testing you is listening for a gist, detail, function, agreement, feelings, attitudes, opinions. Always listen to the intonation and the tone of the speaker as well. Sometimes I can tell if they're in a little bit of a negative mood or things like that, okay? Sentence completion, okay, you've got a full text, you've 8 questions, again, 1 mark. In the first part, in part 1, the question is read to you, and then you've got the multiple choice, and then you have a couple of about 8 seconds before they start, okay? Yes, okay, so part 2 is a monologue, all right, lasting about 3 minutes, okay? So you are required to complete the sentences where the gaps are, okay, and the recording. So this is following the points of a text, okay, and extracting the correct answers, okay? You have to write what you hear. You can't adapt it. You have to write the words that you hear, okay? No, like 1 word, maximum 3, Maximum 3. Numbers can be written as a word or as the digits, okay? Multiple choice, 6 questions, 1 mark each as well. Okay, so conversation between 2 or more people. This is the longest part, I think. Part 5. This is the longest part, the multiple choice. Yeah, it's 4 minutes long. Okay, so then you've got 6 multiple choice questions, right? So they each have 4 options, A, B, C, or D, right? So listen. The emphasis is listening on a longer discussion, okay? Understanding the attitudes and opinions, okay? You can be underlining as well, but the questions do come in the order. Okay, the questions in part 1 don't necessarily come in the order, all right? Part 4, multiple choice, 10 questions, 1 mark. Okay, so you've got 5 short theme monologues and approximately 30 seconds each, right? So each multiple choice matching task requires a selection of the correct options, all right, from a list of 8. So you're doing 2 things at the one time, guys, 2 things at the one time, okay? Right, so emphasis is on gist. You have to understand the main points, okay? Because they're going to be speaking about something similar you've got to interpret the context correctly. Okay, so be careful. Right, so here you've got an example. So you'll have one. The instructions are read out to you. You'll hear the two of them. So the answers to the questions, and it may not be in the order. So listen until the very end. Okay, you hear each one twice. Okay, like I said, reading the instructions, you get I think it's about 30 or 35, 45 seconds here before. So take advantage of that, take avail of it, read it, try and work out what the answer might be. Sometimes you know it's going to be the name of something or a place or a number or a date. Okay, so you could write that little note to yourself, and then you know that you're going to be listening specifically for that kind of information. Okay, part 3, which is the longer one. All right, again, always read the instructions. You've got about 45 seconds, I think, or maybe a bit more here. No, I think you've got a bit more, actually, about 60 seconds to read here. Okay, so take advantage of that. Read as much as possible. Read the questions first. Okay, that's going to give you an idea of the whole listening before you even listen. And then whatever time you have left over, then start with your the multiple choice. And then, as I said, this is the part that a lot of candidates find hard because it's trying to do 2 things at the one time. Okay, so you've got a list of 8, but you only need 5. So it's very important to underline a word here in each part that's going to help you differentiate what they are talking about. Okay, very important. Again, don't leave any answers in blank. Right, so use all the time to read the questions, underline your keywords. Each question has a different focus, right? So it may not be in the sequence, as I said, all right? All the answers are mentioned, so don't jump to conclusions, just wait, listen till the end, listen to the answer, listen to the answer to the question they're asking you, okay? And listen to the correct person. Make sure it's what the boy says and the man says and not the woman, etc. Use the second listening to confirm your answers or to get the answer that you didn't actually get. So look, don't panic, guys. You're going to hear it twice. If you didn't get it the first time, I'm sure you're going to get it the second time, okay? Don't worry about it. Go on to the next question, okay? And if not, logical guess. Right, part 2, the introduction and all the sentences before the listening. Underline the keywords and speculate, as I said. Could be a place, could be the name, could be a number, etc. Okay? Don't jump to conclusions and don't write the first thing you hear. Right, digits, you can write it like this or you can write it in words, okay? But if you don't know the spelling, how to spell 1,000 correctly, use the digits. Remember, it's 1 to 3 words only, no more. Answer in the order, it do come in the order that you hear them, and you need to write the correct spelling of the word and the word correctly, okay? You can't paraphrase, you need to write the actual words that are said from the listening, okay? Transfer your answers carefully, always checking your spelling. This is the longest, as I said, so read the introduction and the question stems, scan the multiple choice questions, eliminate any of the answers you can in the first or the second listening, and confirm your answers in the second listening, or the ones that you weren't quite sure of, you can answer them then. Okay, reporting verbs, adjectives, feeling, attitude, opinion words, these are all the type of things that you need to pay special attention to. Okay? In part 4 again, read the introduction. The theme is common in the 5, so you're going to be hearing a lot of repetitive stuff. Be careful, you need to listen for the specific words. This is where specific vocabulary comes in, okay? Look at the answers and think of other ways to say the words, okay, or phrases. Again, don't come to conclusions. There are misleads or distractors. Listen till the very end. Only complete the answers, cross out the ones that you don't need, okay? On the first listening if you can, if you're lucky and you're 100% sure, no? Okay, so you hear everything twice, use those occasions. Don't lose concentration. Listen intently both times, even if you're sure of the answer. Read and prepare the introductions that you get a lot of pre-listening information. Don't jump to conclusions. Okay, don't write the first thing you hear. Wait, listen to the overall meaning to see what they're asking you. It's a listening test, okay? But reading the questions is very important too, okay? You get 5 minutes to transfer at the end. Don't do it before. 5 minutes, transfer immediately, then double check and change any. Okay, transfer your answers calmly and correctly and carefully and as accurately as possible. Not transferring the answers onto the answer sheet won't be corrected. The question paper is destroyed, remember. Not answering all the questions. Give it a logical, educated guess. Spelling and grammatical mistakes in part 2. Be careful. Not writing part 2 answers in capitals, okay, on the answer sheet. Jumping to conclusions and not listening to the overall meaning. Not reading the instructions and questions before the reading. Do, please, it helps you. I promise. And not listening intently on both occasions. Right, Michael, any questions there that I might help them with?
Okay, so with the listening, Aran is asking, could you lose the mark if the spelling is wrong in part 2 of the
Yes.
listening?
Yes, you will. You will lose a mark. The spelling has to be correct.
Mm-hmm. And Albo is saying, is part 2 of the listening in order?
Yes, always.
Okay, good.
In part 2, part 3, and part 4, all of them are in order. It's part 1 that you've got 2 multiple choice questions that they might not be in order. It's the whole kind of thing, okay?
Mm-hmm. And what else? Actually, I think that's about it. Yeah, that's
Okay,
about it for the listening. So, yeah,
right. Let's move on quickly then to the speaking, okay? So I
sure.
saw in the poll that you're all pretty confident about the speaking. That is great. Good to hear. Okay, 4 parts. Okay, there are 4 parts to the right. Okay, you've got interview, long term, collaborative task, and discussion. Okay, so it's normally done in pairs. Okay, so you've got 15 minutes. If it's done with a group of 3, okay, it's 23 minutes. You all get an even time to talk. Okay, right. So the first part is kind of the introduction. You're talking with the examiner. Okay, and the examiner is indicating the questions to each of you. All right. And then you have that's asking you general about, your present, your past, and your future, normally. Okay, your individual long term. This is the part that most students struggle with or are worried with. Okay, I just see a quick question there. Can we do it in black pen or blue pen? I think blue pen, I think, is the recommended. Black or blue, I think. Okay, not red. Okay, an individual long term for each candidate with the response from the second candidate. Okay, in turn. And you are given 3 photographs and you are asked to talk about 2 of them, not the 3, only 2. Remember that, please. Collaborative task means working together, okay? It's a 2-way or a 3-way, we're doing a group of 3 conversation, okay? Between candidates. Okay, so the candidates are given spoken and written instructions with a written stimuli, all right? Which are used in the discussion and the decision making. Okay, you're given about 15 seconds to read this before the examiner will ask you to speak. Okay, so the conversation is divided into the discussion phase for about 2 minutes, then you'll be interrupted and you'll be asked to come to a decision, okay, which will take about 1 minute. And then part 4 is a discussion, which is normally something to do with what you've already spoken about in part 3. So here you have like the parts, okay? So you'll be asked your name, where you're from, the typical, and then you'll be asked some general questions for up to 2 minutes, okay? Then part 2, the individual long term, okay? It's in 2 parts. You're given instructions. The instructions are also written on the photographs, the top of the photographs for you in case you forget. Then the second candidate should listen and you'll be asked to give a comment of about 30 seconds, more or less, on a question that will have something to do with what your partner has spoken about, and then the second candidate will speak. All right, there's an idea. Okay, you can see 3 pictures and the 2 questions, but you only speak about 2, and this is the other person's one. Okay, then you've got part 3 and part 4. Okay, these are all the instructions, but if you look here, you'll see part 3, there's your collaborative task, here's your question, and then you've got these ideas to help you. Okay, so it's best to use 3 or 4 of these ideas. You don't have to use them all, but it's best to use 2, 3, or 4 of them for sure, not just 1 or 2, okay? Because otherwise you'll just be using very repetitive language, okay? Right, don't give the mark sheet to the examiner until you're asked when you come in, okay? Give extended answers, not a speech, okay? Answer the question that you're asked briefly and say why. Always develop what you say. Don't memorize fixed answers, no. Unless you know how to memorize them, you're an actor or an actress and they come out as natural as possible, no. Okay, be confident and use a variety of tenses and vocabulary. And don't overcomplicate your answers in part 1, okay? You've got 2 minutes, okay? So just answer as naturally as possible. Part 2 is 4 minutes, okay? You're given the instructions by the examiner, okay? You get 2 pictures that you're going to choose about from the 3, say which ones they are. Answer the question that the examiner states them, and they're also written above. So answer the question, okay? Compare the photos. Don't simply say what you see. No, okay? Use the connectors, use contrast, use as much language as you can, as much specific language here as you can using those photos, all right? Don't personalize it, okay? Answer the questions you're asked, lovies. Okay, the examiner is responsible for the time throughout the exam. Don't be worrying about the time, lovies. The examiner will say, thank you, thank you. It's a good thing if the examiner interrupts you, okay? So forget about the time, just keep speaking until you hear the examiner's voice saying, thank you, all right? So don't worry if you're stopped. Answer all the questions and answer the short, brief question as brief as possible. It's about 30 seconds, as I said, okay? Part 3, the collaborative task, 4 minutes, okay? It's an authentic conversation with your partner, okay? So it's not a monologue. It's not you and then over to your partner. And no, you're talking together. You're having a little chat. Imagine yourselves out on out having a wee drink, a coffee, and you're chatting. That's what you should be doing here, okay? So listen, respond, and look at your partner, okay? Don't be looking at the examiner. You're not talking to the examiner, you're talking to the partner, okay? Don't plan what you're going to say. Respond spontaneously, naturally as possible. The usual, imagine the pyramid shape. Okay, so discuss all the options until you arrive to your conclusion. Okay, know how to disagree as well and say if you disagree. It's a good thing to disagree. You don't always have to agree. No, actually, when you disagree, you use more language. All right? Okay, again, don't personalize it. Answer the question asked. And the user conversation fillers like, yeah, oh, that's a good question, etc. Things like that. That's fine. They're fine to use as long as you don't overuse them, okay? Right, because that's what you do in a normal, natural conversation, no? So that's what we're trying to get to here, okay? And part 4, that's more or less 5 minutes, okay? Again, controlled by the examiner. So it's a conversation with your partner, the question prompt from an examiner, okay? So the examiner will either direct a question at you or get both of you or your partners or 3 of you to answer the question, okay? They will use gestures. It's not a series, again, of unrelated monologues. You're yapping together. So listen, respond to your partner, and then move on, okay? Don't ignore your partner. Move on to what they said, agree or disagree with it, etc. Don't expect the examiner to converse. The examiner will ask the question and then put over to you, okay? Don't plan again what you're going to say. Try and respond as naturally and as spontaneously as possible. And always give reasons or opinions. When you give your opinion, give your reasons. Say why you're saying that, okay? Give us a reason. Don't just give us an answer. Give us a reason for it as well. All right? The more you say, the more you're going to get. So, enter the room showing good manners and appropriate respect, okay? Never look bored. Always be listening and responding proactively. Always. Even if the question isn't yours, it's for your partner. Show interest, please. Speak clearly and at a suitable volume and in a clear voice. Don't mumble, okay? Don't expect the AMRs to converse. It's prohibited. We're not allowed, okay? You can ask us to repeat a question or if you don't understand, we will repeat the question that's stated. We will, but we cannot explain anything and stuff like that. So don't ask. Relax, enjoy it as much as possible. Now that sounds funny because you're going into a speaking, I know that, but you really should. Relax, enjoy it. You don't have to, you can live out your, a dream that you have or whatever in the speaking, as long as you're answering the question that you're being asked. Okay? You're not supposed to be perfect, lovies. If you were perfect, you wouldn't be doing the exam. You'd be teaching, wouldn't you? Okay? So you're not supposed to be perfect, so don't worry. If you don't know a word, paraphrase. If you can't paraphrase, just say, I can't remember that word in English, and move on. Don't worry about it, okay? Listening is a vital part of the speaking as well. Listen to your partner, okay? And don't dominate the conversation, okay? If you do have a dominant partner, well, then you, the other partner, politely interrupt and say, I'd like to interrupt, I'd just like to say, and things like that, okay? But don't worry, the examiners are trained and you are marked individually, okay? So don't worry about that. Have authentic, spontaneous conversations and express what you think, okay? Show what you think. Don't repeat the same learned fixed phrases over and over again. Not a good idea, okay? It's okay once, but if you keep doing the same thing, it shows the examiner that you have a lack of language, all right? So speaking, you're going to be marked on what you say, not what you repeat. Remember that, okay? So demonstrate as a wide range as possible of C1 language and grammar. Right, don't forget to bring your identity card, you need it. Not listening to your partner, you have to listen and respond. Saying too many fixed and learned expressions, as I said. Not answering the questions in part 2 and part 3, be careful. Personalizing parts 2 and part 3 when that's not really the question. Answer the question you've been asked. Try to use as many connectors and conversation fillers as you can and as natural as possible. Not demonstrating. Okay, you're nervous at the beginning, that's fine, but come on. We know that you have that language. The examiners are there to help you. We're not there to make the situation difficult. It's quite the opposite, I promise you. We're very, very friendly and very nice people. I promise. Okay, not giving extended answers are not dominating are dominating, should I say, the conversation. So don't do that. Panicking if you forget a word. Relax, keep calm, carry on. If you don't know the word, say you don't know the word. You do that in your own language, so say you don't know the word. Okay. Now I don't know if we have time, Michael, to quickly show them. We have a snip of part 2 of the speaking. Are you interested in seeing it? Anybody? If you'd like to say. I can't hear you, Michael.
There's quite a few questions, so maybe we should answer the questions, because
Yes.
on the page of links, I've given people links to those videos, and people can watch the
Perfect.
whole video. So
Perfect, Michael. Thank you. Yeah.
Mark was asking how long should they talk in the second part of the speaking, each
Okay. So
candidate.
each candidate, when you're comparing and answering the question about 2 of the 3 photos, you have 1 minute to do that, and then the short question is about 30 seconds, more or less.
Okay, and Gio says, do you get points taken off if they cut you off in the middle of a sentence?
No, not at all. That's what I said. When an examiner interrupts you, that's a good thing. That means you've been yapping away for the right amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Actually, a lot of people said they did want to watch the video.
Oh, sorry. Maybe I shouldn't have asked that question. I'm just saying because it's 12:30, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to, there were a few people asking that they were the specific questions about the speaking, Sarah, but quite a few people have been asking about headphones and the use of headphones and also masks in the speaking exam. So can I just say a couple of quick words about that?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Headphones, you're not permitted to bring your own headphones if you're doing a computer-based session. If you're doing a paper-based session, you'll be hearing the listening through loudspeakers. But in the computer-based session, you are given headphones to use. Now, given the situation with COVID, we'll also be providing you with some hydroalcoholic wipes to wipe the headphones before you use them, so that you're sure that they've been sanitized. But please don't bring your own headphones. Also, somebody was asking about the use of masks in the speaking exam. The situation with the speaking exam is that we will set up the room so that there is 2 meters of distance between all candidates and examiners. You may wear a mask, and the examiners may wear a mask. So it's up to you, really, what you want to do. During the written exams, we are asking everybody to wear a mask, but because the speaking exam obviously does involve speaking, you may or may not like to use a mask. However, we will ensure that there is a 2 meter distance between all candidates and examiners. And a couple of people were also asking, Sarah, and this is always a question, about transferring answers. So as you've said a number of times, the time that you have in the reading and use of English and in the writing is the time that you have. You don't get any extra time to transfer your answers.
No, the only extra time you get is in the listening, where you will have 5 minutes at the end, and they will tell you when you have 1 minute left. Also, there will be a reminder. So get cracking.
Exactly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share again that document with some links. If you don't get to download it now, don't worry, because we will be sending this presentation, a PDF of the presentation with all the information and the page of links by email to you next week. But I'm going to share that. It's still shared, so it should be there in the chat box, the link for you to download that document. But if you can't download that, don't worry, we'll be sending it to you. And that document has links to the videos, so you can watch the videos at your leisure. You can stop them, you can start them. So I think that's that. And I think that is pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So I'd really like to thank everybody for attending. First of all, we've had lots and lots of people today. It's fantastic. I want to wish you all really good luck for your exam, and I want to thank Sarah Johnston for being here with us this morning and giving us all the sort of benefit of your great experience and knowledge. And I hope we've been able to clear up some doubts for you. And well, all the best for your exam and for the future. We hope to see you soon.
Yeah,
Anything else,
okay. The
Sarah?
very best of luck. And thank you very much. I'm seeing some beautiful messages being sent to me. Thank you so much. You're very, very welcome. Okay. Best of
Great.
luck. Keep calm. Take a
That's
deep
right.
breath. And that's it. Thank you very
Keep
much.
calm and carry on.
Exactly.
Okay. Thanks and
Bye.
bye for now.
Bye for
Bye.
now.